The Japanese one was available in DVD only 5 years ago, and it was never shown on American movie theater. And merci, thank you. Well, so I will show you the American trailer, and you will see it's a completely different film. It's a good monster movie film. It's not a political film talking about the war, it's just a monster movie. Well, so you can see it's you can just by the production change completely the movie. Just I love the movie. And actually, the idea of Godzilla was not very new, because 1 year before there was already a radioactive monster movie in the United States with a French director, Eugène Bourdier. The Beast from 20,000 Patrouilles. In French, Le Monstre des Temps Anciens. So the story is quite the same as Godzilla. I mean, well, scientists went to Greenland and they make atomic bomb testing, and they just wake up the dinosaur. So the dinosaur wake up, it hits some scientists, and then he swim until New York, and he rampage on tropic New York. But the difference is that, well, the monster, well, sorry, I did not any image, but this monster is just a dinosaur. I think it's big, but it's not so big. It's just was like 15 meters high, and so he walked in the street of New York. He hit some people, but that's all. It's not big enough to trample, to destroy New York. So he's just a monster. And there is not real, well, there is a message about the danger of atomic testing, but it's not, actually, it's not as strong as Godzilla. Because, as I told you, one of the big things about Godzilla is the gigantic size of the monster. In the movies, it's supposed to be 50 meters high, so it's bigger than all the building in Tokyo at the time, and it's supposed to weigh 20,000 tons. And the idea for the director Honda, that he said, well, the explanation is later, he said that, well, if Gojira was just a dinosaur, you can just kill him with a few tank bullets or something. But he just understood. And after, well, yes, well, Gojira was just a kind of nemesis for Honda, for the director, because the film was so popular that Toho asked him to make monster movie for 20 years. And so he made monster movies about monster movies and monster movies and monster movies. But some are quite good. And for example, 2 or 3 years later, he made a movie called, in Japanese, Radon, and in European language, Rodon, about a supersonic bird, radioactive supersonic bird, and that remained maybe the American bomber, the strategic air command, like the B-52. And well, but I just talked about this movie. Well, you always have all this cliche from monster movies, like huge monster that can destroy the whole city. And for example, in this radar is flying at supersonic speed, so he may bang and destroy everything by the depression. But what is interesting is that, well, as I told you, in Godzilla King of the Monster, the radioactivity it just wiped out from the American version. But for Rodden, when the American version was made, they had something. What they had some footage from atomic testing in the Pacific. So they just emphasized the message. And it's quite, well, seems pretty strange. Why they just wipe out in the post movie, and 3 years later they just emphasize about radioactivity, about atomic bombing. Well, the fact is that we enter in the Cold War, and in the 50s, well, the Cold War started, and you know what was the Cold War? Maybe it's well, now it's a kind of far away from us, but at the time, the American, the Soviet Union made a lot of tests of nuclear bombing in the Pacific and in Siberia, and there was a kind of terror equilibrium, and people were really fearing a big atomic war. And so, things that appear to us absolutely crazy today were happening. For example, in school, the children were told what to do if an atomic bomb was exploding near their place. So if an atomic bomb was exploding and they see a mushroom, they have to go under the table. And as I say, sometimes it's very important, the bomb might explode and the bright flash comes without any warning. So they can do nothing, absolutely nothing. Well, so it was kind of the Cold War, really, I guess. We can't imagine this now, but the people were really stressed by this idea that the atomic bombing can happen every time, and they can die every time, and they have to prepare for some war, and they couldn't do anything about this, because of course, if you see an atomic bombing by the window, what we can do is just duck and cover. The slogan was duck and cover. It's just you put under a chair, so when the glass will burst, we have less danger to be cut. But this was made in classroom. But well, outdoor, duck beyond wall and free, even in the hole on the ground, just also duck down beyond the wall. Well, you see, if there would be bombing, it bursting, near your place, you just take some shelter near a tree, you know. But it was not, at the time, it was not ironic at all. Most of people, they asked to when American people were living in countryside or in suburb, but when they have cows and huge garden, they say you should dig an atomic shelter in your garden and put a few jars of jam and a bottle of water. So if by chance an atomic bombing appears near your place, you can just go down. So, I mean, what I mean is that, well, after all, at this time in the 50s, well, atomic bombing just at the moment become part of the everyday life. And so people doesn't care, not doesn't care, but they were told that it was part of the atmosphere. And so gradually, all these movies of gigantic monsters just become something like really familiar. Actually, when you think about Godzilla, well, the first definition, you have to define it in 3 or 2 words. You say, well, it's a radioactive blizzard, reminiscing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It's not false, but it's way much complex. Actually, if you look at the original poster of Godzilla, you will see written in Japanese, Suibaku Daikaiju Eiga, which means H-bomb giant monster movie. The movie is not about Hiroshima and Nagasaki, but about the testing of hydrogen bomb in the Pacific by Americans in 1954. And it was that scared the Japanese the most at the time. Because just after the war, there was what we call, well, in French, course aux armements, but there was a competition between America and Soviet Union to make the biggest bomb and the biggest atomic bomb the more quickly. So from 46 every year in the Marshall Archipelago, in Bikini Island, America was testing new nuclear weapons, more and more powerful each time. For example, this one, the Crossroad Baker in 1946, is just a small atomic bomb, yes?
They were the only ones testing bombs at that time?
At the time, there was, well, at the time, the Soviet Union just, well, didn't have any atomic bomb at the time. It takes them 4 or 5 years to make one, but yes, the Soviet Union made the bombing in Siberia, in their own country. Americans started in the desert in Ohio, this place, and after it was too polluting, so they put it in the Pacific Island.
So they knew, at the time they knew it was polluting?
Yes, I knew it was dangerous. Otherwise I didn't be at home, but I knew it was Pacific. But this island, there was inhabitant, and after there were French testing in Polynesia, which is, well, 15 or 20 years later. And in 54, March 54, American make a really huge test called Castle Bravo, and it was literally a catastrophe. But it was a disaster because they planned it. It was supposed to be what was already absolutely really big. 400 times the firepower of Hiroshima. And when it exploded, it was 1,000 times the power of Hiroshima. So it was absolutely devastating. So the ball of fire was 11 kilometers of diameter. And this is the diagram of the actual size of the explosion. And here you can see this is Hiroshima bomb. It was 10 kiloton, and the mushroom cloud arrived to 6 kilometers of height. And the Castle Bravo testing in 54 is this size at the same scale. And the mushroom raised to 30 kilometer high. 30 kilometer high, the stratosphere is here at 18 kilometer. That means all the atomic, radioactive dust from the stratosphere, you have the very strong winds. So if you go up to the stratosphere, the dust makes the whole planet well. And at the impact on the island, the explosion made a hole of 2 kilometers wide and 70 meters deep in Coral Island. So there were millions of tons of coral that were vaporized, radioactive coral that was vaporized in the atmosphere, and then was falling down in some kind of radioactive snow around the Pacific. So before the test, they made a forbidden zone. But because the test was so powerful, it was dangerous at 3 times the forbidden zone. So some people living in atoll near there have to be evacuated because they were strongly irradiated by the explosion. And they have to evacuate to other islands, and they still live on other islands 50 years later. They can't come back to the island, it's too radioactive. Many of these people have cancer and problems after leukemia, after the testing. And Japanese call this dust coming from the explosion shinohai, the ash of death, what is called in English fallout, nuclear fallout. And well, after and on the moment of the Castle Bravo test, there were some Japanese fishing boats around here, and they received the snow of radioactive coral, and so some people were heavily contaminated, and one of the fishermen died. And they bring back tuna that were highly radioactive in Japan, and that was sold in the market. So it made a big scandal at the time. And the beginning of the Gojira movie is reminding this fact. The incident of the Lucky Dragon 5. Lucky Dragon 5 is the name of the tuna fishing boat that was contaminated. And the movie starts with a fishing boat, and people see a flash, and the boat sink in the sea. It's a kind of allusion to the atomic test of Bikini and to the story of the Lucky Dragon 5. And it's one of the way of showing radioactivity, because there is a word in Japanese for the atomic bombing of Hiroshima. It's called Pikadon. Pikadon is a kind of onomatopoeia. Pika means bright, like Pikachu. Pikachu, you know the Pokemon character Pikachu with a yellow mouse, and she said Pika Pika Pika. She Pika 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 Choo Choo. Pika Pika means she's Pika Pika is electric shock. She can send electricity, Pika Pika, or flash of light. And Choo is the noise of the mouse. Pikachu. So and the Pika, the same Pika is used in the atomic bombing. Pika is a flash of light. Pika dawn is an explosion. Pika is a flash of light. But if you see an atomic bombing, you will see a flash of light, and maybe sometime later the noise, but with some delay. And so the movie starts with a flash of light and this fishing boat sinking, remembering the lucky dragon time incident. And there was this cause of a lot of turmoil in Japan in the summer of '54 because, well, only a few fishermen were deeply injured by radioactivity, but hundreds of fish just fished radioactive tuna. So there was a lot of radioactive fish on the market. This is they say here we don't sell radioactive tuna. And in fact they were checking the market with Geiger counters, the radioactivity of the fish, or any even vegetable. Well, in fact, it's one of the points that of course, you heard about Fukushima, its accident last year, about the contamination of food and fish, and in fact, it's already happened in the 50s and at a much bigger scale. But I read very few papers of journalists talking about this, and at the time the Japanese were really scared. They did not eat sushi and fish for months. And there were even a war, so it was about the radioactive tuna. It was Genshimaguru radioactive tuna. And people remember, when you talk to old people, they remember that they did not eat any fish in '54 because it was too dangerous for people eating. There was even a song at the time that say, if you go outside when it's raining, don't forget your umbrella, you will become bald. There were radioactive rain at the time. There were really radioactive rain during all the summer. So Gojira can be seen as a very aggressive monster destroying Tokyo, but it's also it can be seen as like a victim of the atom. And it was an idea. This is a model of the original model of Godzilla made in clay, because in some ship, well, you can see there is some inspiration from kind of dinosaur, but so it's a little bit different. This is all representation of dinosaur, but well, it's really interesting because so you see the scale of the building. You see, even a dinosaur is not so big. He goes like 5, 6 floors, and Godzilla is about 50 floors high. And the thing is that it's not a reptile. This is the American movie, the beast from 20,000, but this is just you see, the dinosaur is big, but not so big. You can trample, you can rampage the city. And in fact, when you see the skin of Godzilla, it don't have any scale, because the idea of Honda was that Godzilla was a victim of the atom, and it was absolutely burned by the radiation. It was burned by the flash of the atomic bombing. So it just wounded, his skin melted, you don't have any scale left, and it just like a giant, well, like the picture, you see some very harsh picture of the victim of the bomb. They don't have any skin left, they are just, and it's like this, you don't have any skin left, you don't have any scale. And in the first movie, it was black and white, but the model was brown color. It was not like some cheap toy in a kind of green like resort. It was really melting. It was really hot. And it has this gigantic size. It can remind some 19th century print of called in Japanese Namazuhe. Namazu is the name of the well. It was said that when there was a earthquake, there was a big catfish there was a big catfish in Japan, and when he moved, all the country was moving, and so he was responsible of the. So they had already this idea of personalizing the catastrophe by the monster. And well, this is a very ironic point, because those people are carpenter, and carpenter is a good work in Japan, because every time you have a big fire, a big earthquake, all the houses are destroyed and you rebuild them and you make a lot of money. So the carpenter invites Namazu and asks him to make a new earthquake. They give him a lot of package and well, you should make an earthquake. At the same time, you see the soul of all the people who were killed in the earthquake that just feel really bad about this. And this is a very ironic print. And this one of Namazu is really interesting too. You see the monster with the inside. Because when you think of earthquake in Japan, well, it's not the earthquakes that kill people. It's when there is an earthquake, the fire there is spread, and people just get the city burned, and people get burned in the fire of the city, not in the earthquake. For example, the big earthquake of Kanto of Tokyo in 1923, there were more than 100,000 people who died, but mainly for the fire, not for the earthquake. After the earthquake. And there are some, in the Shinto shrine, there is something called Komainu, or Korean dogs, or Japanese lion that keeps the shrine. And, well, there is a bit, there could be a kind of inspiration of the look of the Godzilla head.
Was it before Godzilla was made on the stone thinking? The stone thinking you just chose, was it made before Godzilla?
This is this print on 19th century. Yeah, that was made before. Traditional monster. So I mean, there is a kind. Yeah, I think the figure of Godzilla as a force, it's not exactly a dinosaur. It must be a beast, so like a wolf or bear, that are more. A dinosaur is really big, but it's not dangerous. I mean, it's not scary. Not so much scary because it's just an illusion. You never see a dinosaur. Just from fantasy movie. But when you look at some like dangerous dog or wolf or bear, it's much more scary. And the first one was with that little ears, it looked much more like a bear. And after it was softened to be much more like a dinosaur or kind of dragon. You see that this came burnt skin. And this is the first one. You see this brownish stone and the force cloud. Well, another interesting thing is that, well, for some, actually, Godzilla was made with someone in a plastic suit. Well, the choice of making it was mainly just economic, because that's why I wanted you, well, for example, King Kong, you make in what we call stop motion. It means it's a small model, and they in clay, and they change image by image, and it can be very realistic. But the problem, when you make it in stop motion image by image, it takes a long time, and it's very costly to make. And they wanted to make the Godzilla movie in very few months. So the only solution was to make someone in a rubber suit. So the idea of the rubber suit, on the beginning, was just because it was the cheapest. But it's so clear, it was finally a really good choice, because as it was cheap, they could make a lot of monster movie but in this way very quickly. So why it was economically possible to make monster movie with this kind of, you just have to make a rubber suit and you can have a monster, you can make a chip. And the other thing is that finally, when you know there is someone inside Godzilla, and it's a Japanese man, there is some kind of Godzilla is getting much more human and much more Japanese. I mean, it was half a real person. And it's really, I think this toy is really interesting because it's a real toy sold in Japan. And it's like, just look like a centaur or some kind of old god, like half a human, half a beast. And there is the clumsiness of the first model, this rubber suit, make it much more human. And finally had something in the process. Well, one of the things about showing the radioactivity is the radioactive breath of Gojira. In the first movie, it's very, well, they tried to make it look like something, as I said, radioactive. You can't see radioactivity, so it just breath, like a kind of breath you can hardly see, and when this breath touch a car, a building, it just bursts. So this is idea of something redemption, but you can't really see it. But this is, and to show radioactivity too, and when Godzilla is about to breath, his crest is getting luminous, glowing. And historically, glowing is connected to radioactivity, because the first glowing element who were found by Becquerel in the 19th century was radium. The radium was the first luminescent element and is really radioactive and really dangerous. Well, when Marie Curie and Pierre Curie discovered radium, they did not realize it was dangerous. And so even in some, when you put radium near a real diamond, it gets luminescent. And so they went in bar and society and they just, with a real radium bar, they were illuminating the diamond of the people. And, well, they can, maybe 10 years later she died of leukemia, because it was really, really dangerous. But they didn't know at the time. There was even beauty cream with radium. But now we put this kind of cream, you just die. And so, this is all this luminescence, this glowing, this combined with the idea of radioactivity. And also, this kind of fire raising Godzilla I think there is some kind of connection with a flamethrower. In the Pacific War, Japanese and American use a lot of flamethrower, especially the American, because this is classified document I get from the US Army, how to use a flamethrower from the World War II. And as the Japanese, well, at the end of the Pacific War, Americans had to take the different islands from Japanese, and Japanese were fighting inside some kind of bunker. So American bunker by bunker, they just use flamethrower to just burn people or just take off all the oxygen and make them die by asphyxia. So flamethrower is really connected with the Pacific War. And in the more recent Godzilla movie, they shot, well, the breath of Godzilla is much more like a flamethrower. But at the same time, when you show this like this, it doesn't remind radioactivity, just kind of a classical weapon. Or in the last one, it's just like a kind of a, what's that? It's just like a kind of electronic device. So we are in the aesthetic of horror movie. is impressive, but it's not something you really feel deeply. Well, what can I add? How much I can talk right now? Like, it's okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I just maybe a few minutes because I can talk hour. So why not? Well, one of the most interesting part of the movie is the burning, when you see the whole city of Tokyo burning, destroyed by Godzilla. Well, in fact, Tokyo was bombed during the last year of the Pacific War. There was many fire bombing on Tokyo, and well, maybe probably 2,000 or 300,000 civilians from Tokyo died during